Hey guys, it's Gina here. I want to go ahead and do this quick video. Sorry I haven't been uploading a lot of these videos, but I'm going to go ahead and start with chapter 4 of God Will Make a Way. Last time we did chapter 3. If you are on my book club, then you would know that I've been uploading several videos of different books that I've been reading and stuff. So this is one of the ones this is one of my favorite. And so I want to go ahead and share it with you. So I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 4 for you. And yeah, so let's go ahead and start. So it says, Glenn was excited about his new job, as excited as I, Henry, had ever seen anyone. His new position was with the marketing department of a family-owned company that sold medical supplies. He was hired to build relationships with doctors, hospitals, administrators, and other key influences in the medical community that the sales force could follow up on. To an outgoing guy like Glenn, having a job that primarily involved building relationships with people was a dream come true. In the first few weeks, he thought the course of his whole life had changed. Talented and bright, Glenn had always thought that he could be a success. He was extremely well liked, and with his brains and personality, he seemed like a shoot in for any job that required creativity, intelligence, and people skills. Yet it hadn't happened. The truth was, at 37, he wasn't much further along than he'd been in his late 20s. But this job, he assured me, was going to change that. He could not believe how perfectly suited he was for the position. His first assignment was to take a group of orthopedic surgeons to sorry guys. Sorry, hold on. It's pink lemonade. A group of orthopedic surgeons to play golf and befriend them for a couple of days while they were in town. Can you believe it? He asked his wife. He continued to tell her about how well it went, how he kept them all laughing, and how he knew that the sales group was going to score big with them because of what he had done. He could just see the future forming right in front of him, corner office and all. Glenn continued with some other meetings, and what had always been true was true there as well. People loved him. Things looked bright. Then one day, about the third week, he got a call from accounting reminding him that he hadn't turned in his receipts or expense report. Oh yeah, Glenn apologized. Sorry, I got held up with a new deal the boss is working on. He has me running all over the place. I'll get what you need up to you later today. As soon as he hung up the phone, he got back involved with work and forgot. Then for the next few days, he would think about his promise, and every time he'd tell himself, I'll get to it later. But as was a familiar pattern with Glenn, later did not come. The phone call from John, his boss, did. Glenn, I just got a call from Raymond, the CFO. He said some paperwork they're waiting on from you and is holding them up. They need it in order to finish some analysis. What's the deal? Why aren't you getting that to them? But he said, sorry, Glenn apologized. I've just had too much to take care of. I'll get to them right now. Good. I hate it when those guys are breathing down my neck, John responded. It doesn't help me because since I'm trying to get one budget increased, please don't do this to me again. Don't worry, John, it won't, Glenn reassured him. There was a little sting in Glenn's gut when he placed the receiver down. That seemed a little heavy-handed, he mattered. What's the big deal about a bunch of paperwork? Don't they understand how important what I'm doing is for the company? He even felt a little angry at being underappreciated. Later that week, Glenn was supposed to turn in an important research report to top management for the annual meeting of the board of directors. Once again, he did not submit the report on time. And once again, his boss was on the phone. This time he was irate. Where's the information, Glenn? We really need it for the board meeting. Sorry, John. I had to go to do a presentation for the hospital yesterday and couldn't get to it. I'll work on it, Glenn explained. John was concerned about what seemed to be an emerging pattern with Glenn, so he decided to talk to him about it. He needed to tell Glenn that the times that he had not followed through had been a problem for other people and he wanted it to get better. He liked a lot of the people work that Glenn was doing, but his irresponsibility in turning in necessary information was getting in the way. As a seasoned manager, John knew that all the people skills in the world did not make up for sloppiness. He also wanted to get off on the right track with Glenn. John liked him and was really impressed with his intelligence and relational strengths. The meeting did not go well. What John thought was going to be constructive give and take turned into an emotional roller coaster ride. Glenn reacted with anger and some sarcasm. Why does everyone seem to petty about the details when I'm doing such great things in the big picture? I can't believe you are making such a big deal out of this, Glenn griped. John just listened. Glenn continued, I'm hurt by your criticism and feel put down. I don't mean to put you down, John responded gently, but with authority. Those issues are important to all of us reaching our goals. This is not personal. I appreciate what you are doing. This is about solving problems. John left and hoped that Glenn could understand. As a manager with a lot of experience, he had remained firm and had not allowed Glenn's reaction to get him sidetracked from the issue. Yet, Glenn's reaction had caused John to make a prediction. Glenn is not going to make it long term. Sadly, John's prediction came true. As Glenn got more feedback and input, he resisted more and started resenting John and the other managing partners. He griped about the management to his peers, and that caused even more trouble. Eventually, Glenn's poor administration performance, as well as his divisiveness, could not be outweighed, but his talents and contributions, regretfully, to all the managers who had such great hopes for him, he was let go. For Glenn's managers, he shortly became just a memory. They would never see him again, nor would Glenn's character issues affect them. Yet Glenn's problems would continue to plague his wife and 3 school-aged girls through 2 more jobs and job losses. His family had to move and start over twice until Glenn finally figured it out and God made a way for him. What was the way that God made for Glenn? God made a way for him to finally move past his past. And it says, check in your baggage. So this is the part where we start learning. So that was just the little story part. So this is the part where, God shows him a way. So, okay. There is a concept in life called finishing. Here's how it works. We all have relationships, experiences, and lessons in life that are sometimes painful, difficult, and for whatever reason, hard to process. As a result, we walk around with certain feelings, patterns, and conflicts that do not really relate to the to the present, but to people and events from a previous time, because those things are not finished. They get in the way of present situations, present relationships, or present goals. And the sad thing is, this baggage that we carry around does not go away until it is dealt with or finished. What happened with Glenn was not new at all. It was an old pattern in his life that was reenacted one more time around a new goal in a new place with new people. For Glenn, it was all about his relationship with his father. Glenn's dad had been a strong, overbearing man. Glenn felt he could never please him. It seemed that no matter what Glenn did, he was not quite good enough for his father. He always felt put down and unappreciated. He would try his best to please his dad, but to no avail. As a result, Glenn was deeply hurt and developed a sensitivity to criticism for good reason. In many ways, his dad was just mean. So Glenn felt um, one down in comparison to others. As he grew older, he did what most of us do. He worked hard to overcome those feelings. He performed well and tried hard, and because he was very talented, he often did well until some significant authority figure like John or a coach or another boss criticized him in some way. Then he would characteristically feel one down to that person, not good enough, unappreciated, and hurt. In short, all the things he once felt in his relationship with his father, he would feel in present relationships with authority figures whom he wanted to please. Trying to overcome his feelings had not worked because Glenn had never dealt with his feelings and patterns from the past. As a result, all of those feelings and patterns were still very much present and active inside him. They were just waiting for a chance to be expressed, like in a relationship with a new authority figure. Then, once again, he would feel hurt and begin to resist things that his boss would ask of him as a way of passive protest. The more he would resist, the more he would get criticized. It was a vicious cycle, and ultimately, he would lose his job. The saddest thing about Glenn's behavioral pattern was the that his bosses generally did not intend to put him down, but because of the sensitivity and hurt that had never been healed, any criticism, even constructive criticism, could feel that way. He would go into a time warp and begin to feel just as he'd felt as a kid. Sadly, he'd act like a child also, and not many companies like to employ children. So he would lose his job, and his wife and daughters would suffer. His patterns of resisting authority, being indirect, and nor fulfilling his boss's expectations would catch up with him. Some of this is kind of relatable, but I will mention a little bit of it towards the end. So hopefully you guys stick around to hear some of that. Okay, so Glenn did not understand that the concept of finishing. God has wired us with a very predictable path for processing life. No matter what our circumstances, with his help, we can work through former hurts and patterns we developed in previous painful situations. But if we haven't dealt with the baggage we bring to any given situation, then those hurt and issues will interfere and may wreak havoc with whatever new situation we find ourselves in. In a very real sense, our past our past will become our present. If hurtful things have happened to your heart and you have not yet dealt with them, those old events will continue to produce what we refer to as issues in your life. God promises that from our heart, all sorts of things happen. The issues that we find ourselves dealing with day to day come from inside, as the book of Proverbs reveals. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. And that's in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. And it's the King James Version. Glenn had hurts in his heart that were affecting him. When he received correction from a boss in the present, he felt as if he were dealing with his unreasonable father. He needed to keep his heart so that he could be free from the past and have a new present. The next part is rescue your heart from the past. So how does God make a way for us to leave behind our old baggage from the past? Here are 6 steps you can ask God to help you take. Agree that you have a problem from the past and confess it. I have seen people, with God's help, overcome just about every sort of past imaginable. Yet no issue can be overcome until we admit that it exists. Recently, on our radio program, a woman called about her lack of desire for sex with her husband. She had been very sexually attracted to him throughout their engagement, but then they married and began to have intercourse. She'd go numb, as she put it, and have no desire. In fact, she said, I even feel repulsed by sex. He's really bothering me. I love him and he loves me. I'm so tired of this. Then she said something very revealing, and there's absolutely no reason for me to feel this way. The truth is, we never feel any way, whether anger or passion or numb, for no reason. When I pressed her on this point, though, she remained adamant. From this, I knew there was some reason that she needed to believe there was no reason for her lack of sexual feeling towards her husband. Karen, I decided to press. I know that you don't feel there is any reason for you to have this problem, but if I ask someone who knew you why you feel this way, what do you think they'd say? Her response was immediate. They would say it has to do with the sexual abuse I experienced, but I don't think that has anything to do with it. I just don't see the connection. What happens inside you when your husband wants to be intimate? I asked. Karen thought for a moment. I don't know. I just feel detached, like I want to go away. I want to get away. Did you know that's exactly what happens to someone during sexual abuse? The victim detaches from the experience. And since the experience is sexual, they are also detaching from sexual experience. That's exactly what you're saying happens to you now. The point is that until she could acknowledge that the significant and damaging event she'd experienced to her past had a major effect on her now, she could not work through them. And as long as she could not work through those experiences, they continue to be present, not past. God's word for agree is the word that is translated confess. To confess something means that we agree that it is true. When it comes to baggage that is bothering us, we must recognize that things have gone wrong, either to us or by us, and agree with God or confess that they happened and affected us deeply. Get healing and express grief. The next step is to receive the care and healing we need to deal with whatever has happened to wound us. If your heart has been broken, then you have to allow others to give you God's care and love to help mend that broken heart. He tells us to weep with those who weep. Which gives us the healing and support from others that we need to start healing from our hurts. Glenn needed some loving people to talk to about how his father had hurt him and to validate that his pain was warranted. Karen likewise needed someone to mourn with her and to help process the fear and hurt that accompanies sexual abuse so that it could lose its power. Okay, guys, this is a long chapter, so I'm going to have to go ahead and stop it here because it's already going to be 20 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and do a second part. So definitely go ahead and check out that because there is a little bit more to read, and I do want to go ahead and share some experience with you. So hopefully you guys will continue to read this chapter with me. So, okay, I'll be right back. Go ahead and click on chapter 2 next.